Alright, now that the handle is cool, we can go and test it one more time to see how the flex is doing. So this side is flexing more, so this is going to become our top lip. Now I'm going to put a link in the description to a couple of videos where I show how to make a more center shot handle. The same principles can be applied to this bow if you just concentrate on the handle. Now I'm going to leave this bow as is because, one, it'll leave it ambidextrous. Either a right or left-handed person can use this, or left or right eye dominant person can use this. Another thing too is, I just like this style. I like the more, traditional, more primitive style of shooting where you have to shoot around the handle of the bow. It can be a little more challenging, but if everything is matched and your equipment is tuned right, it's just an amazing thing because it's really just an extension of your body. So now the handle is all done. The bow is pretty much done and ready to be strung up for the first time. So I'm going to go grab some paracord. We're going to whip up a temporary string just so we can double check and make sure everything's good. If that checks out, we're going to clear coat this, and I like using a clear coat just because it lends just a little extra layer of protection to the bow. It also keeps the finish looking nice and it helps resist scratching a little bit. And then we're going to wrap the handle, put some arrow passes on here, and we'll be done. So here we go. Alright, here's the bow. Got a temporary string on it. So I'm going to string it up. Here it is. So you can see there is a positive tiller to this bow. It's pretty subtle, it's not that extreme, but it's a nice balanced bow. You can see everything lines up. The string tracks right through the center of the bow, so everything is nice and balanced. I'm going to draw it a couple times. Here it is. So everything looks good, everything checks out. I'm going to go ahead, give this whole bow a light sand so that the clear coat can adhere well, and then I'm just going to clear coat it. So I'm going to let that dry and I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. Alright, so now that the clear coat is dried, we're going to start working on our handle. The first thing I want to work on is the arrow shelf. Since this is going to be for youth, or the idea is somebody who's a beginner in archery or may be unfamiliar with shooting off of the hand, I'm going to be putting an arrow shelf. Now this shelf isn't a true shelf, it's more like just an index. It's big enough to support an arrow so you can have it index in the same spot all the time, but you still have the feeling like you're shooting off the hand. It's one of my favorite types of rest. I use it quite a bit. When I was making self bows, I would put one on every bow I made. So what it is basically it's a stacked leather rest. And the way you make it is you need to cut out, depending on the thickness of the leather you have available to you, about 4 to 6 pieces. Thicker leather you can get by with less. So you want to make a basic shape like this. Pick any shape you want, a sharp triangle, something rounded like this, a half oval, a half oval. Any one of those shapes will be fine. When we put the final leather wrap over it, it will kind of get smoothed out. So you want to cut out a piece like this. And then you want to cut another piece that's just a little bit smaller. That's going to sit on top. You can see right there. And then you need another piece, same thing, it's just a little bit smaller, and it goes on top, as you can see. And then I've got a final little piece that's going to go on the very top here. Now altogether, I've got about 5/16 inch, 5/16 of an inch built up. And that's good because you really only need it thick enough for half of an arrow shaft. So that right there is plenty thick. All you want to do is put contact cement on both surfaces, and when you've contact cemented everything together, you'll get a little rest like this. Now you have some options. You can take a knife or sandpaper and round this off so it's nice and smooth. That's what you'd need to do if you were going to be doing, say, a fine leather lace wrap or something similar to that. But since we're going to be putting a thicker leather handle on this, all you'd need to do is then take this, put some contact cement where it's going to be, and a good way to do this is figure out where on your bow you want the rest to sit. Trace the bottom portion, put your contact cement there, put contact cement on the back of your rest. Then when the contact cement sets, place it on. You can see that's how the rest will sit. So I'm going to go ahead, finish up the other rest, and I'm going to put both of these onto the bow. Now that the arrow rests are placed and everything's good, we're going to start wrapping the handle. Now I'm going to sew on a leather handle to this bow. And an easy way to do this, to figure out how large of a piece of leather you need, I like to take masking tape and just mask off the exact same part or the exact same area I want the handle to be. So for this, I want a handle of about 4 inches or so, and that right there is approximately 4 inches. So something that ends right around here. So that's where I'm going to start my wrap. And you just want to wrap around, go as evenly as possible, and try to get the masking tape in all of the crevices and other places. Now when you get to this point, you may have to use multiple strips and pieces to get to conform around the arrow shelf or the arrow rest. Alright. So now you just want to double check. Make sure that this is what you want. This is what the handle looks like now. Once you've got your wrap, you just kind of press it down, make sure that the masking tape adheres to itself. And then you want to take a sharp knife, and you want to be very careful. You may want to actually draw a line first and then cut it, just to ensure that you're making a straight line. But you basically want to take your knife and very carefully cut this handle wrap, or this masking tape wrap, right down the middle. Once you've cut through it, you carefully peel it off. And you got to make sure to get everything as you peel. You need to cut this a little deeper. Didn't quite get all the way down through all the layers of tape. And here we are. So you can see this is what your handle wrap should look like. So now what I like to do is actually stick this pattern onto the interior of my leather. And then I give myself about a 1/16 to an 1/18 inch border on all sides, because this is going to end up, unless you're using really thin leather, this is going to be a little smaller than what you want your actual wrap to be. But when you stitch, I do like to slightly undersize my handles because I like them to be wrapped to fit, meaning that when I sew, that compression is what holds the wrap into place. So I'm going to go ahead, cut my piece of leather, and then I'm going to start wrapping the handle. Alright, I went ahead and I finished wrapping the handle. I used a piece of oil tan leather for the handle wrap, and I went ahead and I just stitched it. It's a really simple stitch. I've actually got a video on YouTube showing how to do this, so I'll link it in case you guys are interested in seeing how I did that. Now this is what I was talking about. With the arrow pass, you can kind of see it has these ridges. I personally think it looks cool, but if you wanted to, you could smooth this out beforehand to prevent that. Here's the finished handle wrap. Now all I'm going to do is apply my arrow passes, and I'm going to be using the soft side of a piece of Velcro because, one, it doesn't add much thickness to the handle itself, and two, it really helps to quiet down an arrow. Plus it's easy to replace if it ever gets worn out. So here it is. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Alright, here are the arrow passes. So now the bow is pretty much all done and ready to go. The only thing I have to do now is build the string. So I'm going to go ahead, build a string, and then I'm going to shoot it out. And once it's broken in, I'm going to do the final weigh-in, and then I'm going to sign it. So here it is. The bow's been shot out and it's all ready to go. So I'm going to string it up for you. Here it is. So I've gone ahead, I've signed it, and I've weighed it. And it's pulling 30 pounds at 26 inches and about 37 pounds at 28. Though the way we designed this bow, it's going to work best with a 26-inch draw, because the last 2 inches to 28, it does stack. As you can see, it's got a nice smooth draw out to about 26. And 27 and 28, there's a bit of stack. It's a little less comfortable. But this would be a great bow for somebody with a shorter draw, and it can accommodate draws up to 28 inches. So there's that. And I've named this bow Ponamu, which is the Maori word for the greenstone, or the jade found in New Zealand. It's a beautiful stone. It comes in different shades, and I was looking at the shade of green that this is, and that's just what I thought of. So here she is. Now that the bow's done, we'll go build our arrows, and once those are done, I'll go shoot them for you. So here we go.